Born on November 27, 1970, a boy named Christopher Robinson was put into foster care after birth. Within a couple months, a newlywed couple decided to stop by the foster home and adopt a child after the bride was dealt the news that her body wasn't healthy enough to bear one of her own. Little Christopher Robinson caught the eye of the couple within a second, and he left knowing within his heart that everything in his new and improved life was going to work out according to God's will. Christopher Robinson's world had taken a spin, and everything would change, including his name. Without any choice in the matter, Christopher took the family name of Mr. and Mrs. John Kelly and was named Todd Eric Kelly. As my father grew older, everyone began to call him TK, and the nickname stuck with him for the rest of his life. Growing up and being forced by his father to participate in athletics, he became All-State in 3 different sports and was drafted by the Detroit Tigers his senior year of high school. Because he wanted to continue his career in football, he turned down the baseball team and signed with the University of Tennessee, where he met my mother, Carolyn Renee Davis. He went on to play 4 years in the NFL, and along the way, a little guy named Todd Kelly Jr. came along and was ready for whatever the world had to throw at him. Little did this small boy know he was going to have to carry his name with pride and dignity while growing up in the same hometown in which his father became an All-American and a first-round draft pick. It's one thing to share an identical name with the patriarch of your family. It's another thing to be named after him and also follow the same path. Everyone in school knows, as long as you don't call me TK Kelly, which means Todd Kelly Kelly, then I'm perfectly fine with the name. When I was a kid, however, my father coached me, mentored me, and shaped me into a football player. From birth, I had a football in my hand and always wanted to attend games and practices around the Knoxville area. It's as if I gave myself no free will to decide what my future withheld. Ever since the age of 5 years old, I was determined to become a college football player, just like my pops. My older sister, Clark, helped mold me as well. We would fight, wrestle, and tackle each other in a playful manner, and she would always make me cry by the end of the brawl. If you know me, I'm a pretty sensitive guy, and that will never change. Nevertheless, the day Clark made me cry to my mom after a wrestling match at the age of 7 years old, I told myself I would never let someone get the best of me again, no matter what the circumstances were. With this mentality already burned into my mind at a young age, I was ready for what the world had to throw at me. Little did I know, the situations I would be thrown in were going to be very personal and almost insulting to the man I wanted to become. As I've grown older and matured to become that man, people began to compare me to my father and throw us into the same category. Having the same name as my father has its benefits, and I'm not ashamed of that. But being told behind social media pages and overhearing people say that everything in life has been handed to me, surely because of my name, are things that I've had to deal with every day. Before high school, I didn't have to worry about anything, and my dad and I had no clue that a kind of competition was lying ahead in the near future over who could leave the best legacy, not only as a football player, but also a person in our lifetimes. Before committing to my dream school, I was a little bit hesitant because I knew that I would be considered a legacy and continue to live in the shadow of my father. Nevertheless, after thinking about it for weeks and months, I took it as a challenge and an opportunity to make a name for myself. This football season, I really grew as a person and began to embrace the legacy of my name when we played against our arch rival, Catholic High School. An hour before the game had even started, the Catholic student section held up degrading signs and chanted my name up until kickoff. Right before the game began, one of my role models and teachers in life, Coach Robbie Collier, pulled me to the side where I could hear the chants "Overrated" and "Daddy's Boy" being chanted directly behind me. He told me that all my life I had been a hard worker and that this was my moment to prove to everyone what I could do. Then he said, "TK, never let someone get the best of you." Immediately, my mind flashed back to the time I told myself as a child when I was getting whooped by my sister to never let anyone get under my skin and control my emotions. I went to the game at peace with myself, knowing that no matter what anybody said or believed about me, it wouldn't hinder the person I was on that field or alter the man I am off of it. Peer pressure can take over someone's life within seconds, but for me, the hardest pressure I've dealt with during my life is putting undue pressure on myself. As a child, football used to just be a game to me. But now I feel like it has transformed me into the man I am because of all the time it has consumed in my life, all of the hard work I have had to pour into it. This upcoming year, people will only judge me based on the tackles, touchdowns, and plays that I make in a football game, when none of that truly measures the type of person that I am, or matters as much as the work I put into being the best I can be. Being a perfectionist is in my blood thanks to my mother. So the pressures of the world outside mixed with my mind set to do everything perfectly is a challenge that I try to balance every day. But as time progresses, I have slowly begun to teach myself how to enjoy the life I have been blessed with, rather than stressing over unimportant situations. After roaming this earth for 18 years now, it is almost second nature for me to hear comparisons to my father or to hear of all his accomplishments as a Tennessee volunteer. However, I have recently learned to receive this information with gratitude and embrace everything my father has achieved in life. Born into foster care, he had no choice but to accept the name he was given and was forced to live up to the expectations of his new parents. At first, I almost felt like holding a grudge against my father because I once believed my life was harder than it should have been, simply because he wanted me to have the same name that his parents gave to him. But after living and taking everything in, I'm finally able to realize that his love for me is everlasting, and he wants me to enjoy life doing what I love to do, which is playing the game of football. Before this chapel talk was written, I asked my dad if he had to do it over again, would he name me Todd Kelly Jr.? And his answer was no, simply because he now understands the pressure and stress that came with bearing his name. But Dad, I want you to know, from son to father, that I'm grateful to share your name and wouldn't want to be named anything else. Thank you, and announcements are next.
Great job, everyone. Okay, we're doing announcements. This match department is going to have a presentation.
It's that time of year again. This past March, students enrolled in all levels of Spanish in the upper school sat for the National Spanish exam. And today we want to recognize those students who distinguished themselves on the exam by placing at the 75th percentile.